Everyone, it's Cass. Welcome back to my channel, What Cass Read. And today I'm going to give you my spoiler-free review of Artemis, written by Andy Weir, and I listened to it on Audible and it was narrated by Rosario Dawson. Right off the bat, I need to let you know that I didn't enjoy this book. So, first of all, Artemis, the synopsis is Artemis is a city on the moon, and so it takes place in like sort of a near future, and our main character is Jazz. She is a 26-year-old woman who is an errand girl, but on the side, she does a little bit of smuggling to make some extra cash. One of her main clients is this like super rich billionaire man who ends up convincing Jazz to help him out with a little bit of corporate sabotage to earn herself a big whopping sum of 1 million slugs. And so the action sort of takes place from there. There's conspiracy, there's some gang plots, there's a lot of science that you can expect from Andy Weir's novels. So as far as the world building, Artemis is a city that is built on the moon. It's made possible because Kenya has risen to power as sort of the Earth's global superpower of space travel, because they offer a resource that other areas of the globe do not, and that is the equator. And Artemis's main source of income is tourism. So there's different pockets of the city. There's kind of like the tourism pocket. There's like the artisan pocket where there are metal workers and all the industry and trade happens. There's the rich area, there's the poor area. Each different bubble, like they are legitimately called bubbles, were named for the astronauts who landed on the moon. And we had Armstrong bubble, we have the moon landing site, which is this really big touristy trap. You know, people can go take the train to go see the moon landing site. They can go walk on the moon in these like little hamster balls and little bubbles, all that stuff. So they really did a great job setting up like a really feasible city on the moon. You're like, yes, people would totally do that. People would totally take part in that. The other thing was you kind of get this like really claustrophobic feel because they consistently mention that you can't go outside. There's no air. You are in a vacuum. The sun is so much more damaging out in space than it is on Earth. And you just can't go outside. So the fact that we're in these different bubbles and we have to adhere to airlocks and air pressure and just making sure that humans are safe, and then you're going to get gravity sickness once you come back and forth and all that stuff. They do a really great job. Andy Weir does a really great job setting that up. The other interesting part about Artemis was that there were so many different nationalities represented on Artemis, because I kind of got the vibe that they were trying to set up this like really global atmosphere, because anyone on the planet Earth can make a living and come and start anew on Artemis. And you really do get that vibe. The thing that I didn't like was I think it was just mostly done sort of like for diversity purposes. It was like, because diversity, like we have Armenians, we have Iranians, we have Saudi Arabians, we have a Scottish bartender, because of course we do. To me, it wasn't really kind of explored with great care. There were a lot of just different pocket communities on the moon, and then Andy Weir sort of took every single stereotype that you hear about different nationalities and didn't do anything with it except for just kind of lace the narrative with stereotypes. We have our main character. Her name is Jazz Bashara. She's a 26-year-old woman. She's supposed to be a 26-year-old woman, but she sounds like a 15-year-old boy. And that is an insult to 15-year-old boys. Kind of, you're not going to be able to escape kind of the comparisons between The Martian and Artemis. People are going to do it all the time because that's really all Andy Weir is known for, is The Martian, this really great success. But the snarky commentary that we get from Mark Watney does not translate as well to a female protagonist in Jazz Bashara. Jazz is just not set up with great care because she's supposed to be this snarky, confident, sassy, independent woman. But the things that she thinks and the things that she says are not what snarky, confident, sassy, independent women actually say. Like, it was written from a perspective of a man who wrote what he thought sassy, independent, confident, snarky women say. And the things that Jazz does are what Andy Weir thinks sassy, independent, confident, independent women do, but they're not. Like, it's just clear that it's like, did you ask any woman? If you had asked a woman, any woman, what she thought or said in this sort of fantastical scenario, the answer would not be what you put on the page. But just there's just some things that she says that you're like, a woman would never say that. Did you ask any woman? No. Obviously, there was nothing that she did that was even remotely likable. Like, her character arc was supposed to bring her kind of full circle from this like really self-serving person to this really self-sacrificing person, and it still came off as self-serving, and she just walks around with this air of self-importance, and I didn't agree with her. I thought she was a dud. She was a dud. Now, like I said, the characterization of Jazz and the snarky humor, and I don't want to be sexist and say that only Mark Watney can speak this way and women don't speak this way, but the reason why it worked for Mark Watney on his own solo Mars mission was because the things that you get are this man talking to himself and documenting this journey, because for a long time he legitimately thinks that he's going to die alone on Mars, and then when he figures out that he can problem solve his way out of this, just sort of the things that he says to himself are kind of like in a Tom Hanks Wilson scenario. Like, he's talking to himself to prevent himself from going mad. He watches reruns of like crappy 70s TV shows because he's trying to prevent himself from going insane as being the only human alone on Mars. And then the format where he's kind of breaking the fourth wall and talking to the audience, it works because he actually is doing that. He's talking to a camera, he's talking to an audience, trying to document what he is doing on Mars, because what if he doesn't make it? He needs people to know what he has done and kind of the science successes and the science failures that he has had. Those things don't work for Jazz Bashara. Those things do not work for her because she's not really in a life or death situation. It's not really like this consistent looming threat. We do get a lot of scientific explanations interwoven throughout the dialogue and interwoven throughout Jazz's thoughts, and that's definitely where Andy Weir is more successful as a writer, but as someone who was a man writing a female, he was not successful in the least bit. As far as the Audible evaluation, if you were expecting slow, sultry, sexy, smoky Rosario Dawson that I love, I've been a fan of Rosario Dawson since Josie and the Pussycats, that's not what she delivers Jazz as. Like, her voice does inflect kind of like a 15-year-old boy. Like, she just, the delivery is not great. The swearing, it doesn't sound like that when people are swearing naturally. And I don't know if that was her choice, or if that was Audible's choice, or if that was Andy Weir's direction. She does do a number of different accents. She does do a pretty decent job with the accents. Not all of them are her best, but she does have some pretty decent accents in this narration as well. Like I said, overall, this was a 2-star read for me. This was not a great follow-up. It definitely suffered from the sophomore slump syndrome, unfortunately, and I'm glad I listened to it on Audible instead of purchasing the hard copy, because I won't even go pick up the hard copy of it now. I think I'm just going to keep The Martian, and that might be it for my Andy Weir adventures for me. Please leave your comments in the comment section below. I want to know what other people think about it. I want to know if there are other women out there who feel the same way as I do, if there are some men out there who have some different perspectives about what they thought about Jazz, or if they agreed with me. That would be a really interesting conversation to have, because just some of the stuff just wasn't as believable as I would have liked it to be. We can also follow this conversation on any of my social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at WhatCastRead, the same as this channel. You can also find my Goodreads review. I'm going to link that below. I think I was maybe a little bit more unforgiving in my Goodreads review because it was super fresh when I had just finished the book. But you can go ahead and read that there. And of course, please like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. And you know how these videos end. I'll talk to you later. Bye.